Hey guys, it's Differential. Welcome back to the channel. And today we're going on a very my tail sticking to the fence. We'll forget about that for now. We're going on a very Florida adventure. Now we're departing today from Everglades Airpark in, surprisingly enough, the Everglades, and we're flying to one of the biggest runways in America. That is the Dade-Collier Training and Transition Airport. Now, if you're a pilot in Florida, you'll know it very well. It was originally meant to be a mega airport for the future. Originally started building in about the 60s, I believe. And it was never actually... I need to get my tail out of this fence. It's bugging even me. So let's get ourselves started up here. It was never actually finished. It was abandoned after they built the runway. It just wasn't viable because the bigger jets they thought they'd be building just weren't necessary as they built smaller jets. And the whole hub and spoke network system became more common. It just wasn't needed. It was going to be an airport surrounded by resorts and casinos and all sorts of facilities, and it just wasn't ever needed. So it became a nothing. It's used for emergencies, it's used for training, and it is used by us today for a particularly Florida man adventure as we fire up the old Goonie bird here. Okay. We're looking good, so that is all set as it should be. Make sure these are all in the right place. Crack the throttles. Make sure parking brake is set. And we're going to set our left engine to mesh. Or to energize at least. Now, why is this flight different? Well, we're not going to be using any flight controls, so this old girl's going to be relevant. Nope, don't need it. We're landing a plane without using it. And we're going to talk through some theory of differential thrust and flight along the way. It's not a very long flight, but it should give us a very interesting adventure. Should be meshing already. I've screwed up my start sequence there. And we should be able to give it a... There we go, bit of throttle. And she bites. Okay, so energize right. So girl's spinning up again. Get ourselves out of the fence because the parking spots aren't big enough for a DC3 here. Pretty sure this isn't intended. Speaking of which, let's make sure our... trim is where we want it. You know what you'll do in terms of a heads-up position. Let's neutralize that. Because it doesn't start neutralized, by the way, in the Aeroplane Heaven DC3. Okay, that should be enough for us to give it a mesh. Don't want to go? Okay, we'll try it again. That's easy enough. We'll get this out of here in no time. No, don't mesh right now. Just energize. Thank you. Now, the timing's always one of those things with this aircraft. You sequence things off wrong and it goes a bit sideways. Bit of goose, come on. Bit of throttle. Do you want a bite? She doesn't want to bite today. I'm not sure why. Oh, a bit today. Okay, we're good. We have both our engines firing. Fantastic. Let's get ourselves out of here. We've wasted enough time so far, parked up here on the ground. And we're going to head over there. So, winds are about 3 miles an hour. We're not going to be too worried about that today. So, let's try and get ourselves turning here. Use some throttle here to help us. It's not a very big taxiway. Let's make sure my head is switched on for the moment. Now, we are going to depart using flight controls. I think that would be a bit excessive not to. But once we're in the air, and we're roughly on course, we'll be ditching the actual controls, and we'll be going entirely on throttle. Now, obviously, to understand lift, one needs to an extent to understand the Bernoulli principle, which is how lift is generated by a wing. It's the pressure differential between the top and the bottom of the wing surface. Air moves, well, slowly across the top, so it's lower pressure, higher pressure underneath because it's moving faster. Creates lift. So when you're dealing with an aircraft, obviously, you know, as you descend, the aircraft needs to be trimmed down because it's picking up speed and therefore going faster. So if you to accelerate, or even just static level flight, if you were to sit there and just increase the throttle, you would climb because there is now an increased pressure differential. And if you were to pull the throttle back, you will descend because there is a lower differential in the pressure. Okay, here we go. Not got a ton of room here, but we should be plenty enough. The jabs on the rudder. Keeper knowing who's boss in this case. It's like riding a horse. Goose are off the ground. And we're up. Okay, so our flight should be basically due east, basically. Runway heading is 09 and 27. So we'll be flying directly into that. Let's get the nose down here a little bit. Flying over Everglades, I think it's city or township, I can't quite tell. But there is in fact a small town down there. They have no idea what we're planning to do today, but it's going to be fun. Of course, as always, I'll include the airports and the aircraft livery in my description. So if you want to grab those, you can. 090, that's what we're looking for. Okay, so I'm going to trim ourselves level once we have cruise power set. And get ourselves set up for cruise flight. Okay. Once we are good and ready, we can start ourselves on our little adventure. So like I said, it's not a very long journey. In fact, we'll look here on the GPS noodle, and it's about 11 minutes. But already, we're in a climb altitude. So if I want to descend, in fact, I'm rolling to the left here, so I'm going to pull back, accelerate on that one. And we're taking our hands off the controls here. And you'll notice I'm working the throttle separately here, because if I pull back on the left engine, I'm going to roll to the left. If I pull back on the right, I will roll to the right. If I pull them both back, I will descend. And with judicial application of both, you can control your attitude and your heading. Right now I'm picking the nose up here. We'll look down at our vertical speed. We're leveling that out. So we can pretend we've had a failure in our control cables. Something under the cockpit maybe. Something's happened. And we have no access to those cables. Ordinarily it'd crash. But you can fly the aircraft. Obviously the engine cables go the same way, so it would have to be a very selective problem in this aircraft, but there you go. Okay. So this could end up in a clunker, I'm going to warn you now, but we are going to attempt to do this. Okay, nose is going down here, so we'll increase throttle, bring that up, and we're going to basically work our throttles here. Bit more to rollers and keep it straight. Now we're climbing. There's a lot of trial and error when it comes to doing this, but you'll find you'll porpoise quite a bit as you go, and you work out what you're doing here. Every aircraft flies a little differently. The last time I did this was in the DC3 by Manfred Jahn in FSX, so it's been a minute. But I recall hearing about the Sioux City disaster and watched, of course, the Destroyed in Seconds or whatever it was, aircraft investigations videos that you always find on YouTube. And I found it fascinating that they'd use differential thrust to do that. And I'd heard that there were going to be a little bit of wind there, it's not helping us. I'd read that there were going to potentially be systems in modern airliners that would use whatever available control surfaces and or inputs an aircraft could have with fly-by-wire systems in modern airliners. There's the airfield. Okay, I can see the runway. We're going to line up here. So nose down. Straighten that turn. Okay, that's my gear horn, so we're not going to worry about that just now. That road is what we want to look at. Okay, that road's going to be our reference point here. But obviously, fly-by-wire systems, you could basically program it to use anything it wants to create drag and therefore impart turn, because you're changing that pressure differential. That is how an aircraft turns. With the control surfaces is changing how much lift is generated on that particular wing, which can turn it to roll, or imparts turn force based on kind of drag to an extent. So in this case, you could use anything you wanted to create drag to create a differential pressure and affect how the aircraft's going to handle. I'm porpoising quite a bit here. In fact, I'm going to put my gear down now whilst we're out here, because I want to throttle up. Oh, we need to throttle up pretty badly here. We should pick up our nose in a second. Let's roll a bit. We should pick up our nose because we'll be gaining speed here. As you'll see, our nose is coming up already. Not very quickly, but it's happening. Giving us as much speed as we can. It's not great for the aircraft, but at the same time, I do fancy living. So let's turn, and we're picking the nose up. This is the slight downside when it comes to this, is you might end up in an attitude that's not conducive, but when you are diving, of course, picking up speed, you'll climb, because the aircraft generates more lift. We are quite low down here, so I'm not going to see where the runway is, which is a problem. Come on, climb, you pig. In fact, I can give you flaps. Now I'll pick our nose up nicely. We'll let ourselves have flaps in this instance. But we're not going to use any control surfaces. There's no rudder, no yoke. Where's the airfield? I could have sworn I saw it a moment ago, off in the distance. I think I see it over there, but I can't be sure. I think it's there. But I can't see the runway. What are we on? We're not on. Oh, come on. Climb, you beast. Let's go. Okay. Just manipulating the throttles as we want to basically change our attitude. Control how the aircraft handles. It's entirely done through the throttles. Nothing on the yokes, nothing on the pedals. Just manipulating those throttles. There we go, got field in sight. I think that's it in the distance over there. Yes, it is. Okay, field in sight. Now, obviously with this kind of approach, this kind of technique, we need a long stabilized approach. We need a lot of distance here. Without that, we are in real trouble. Because it's not a very, as you've noticed, reactionary control method. You don't have a lot of control over it. There's a lag, there's a delay as the aircraft responds, because you're relying on its innate behavior and its aerodynamics rather than giving inputs. By increasing drag and changing the airflow of the wing with an aileron, obviously you are getting a much quicker reaction. Here, we're relying on differential thrust to do that. Now obviously with a jet or a turboprop, this is harder because you do have a certain amount of lag, but it's not impossible. You saw how the Sioux City crashed. They saved so many people because they managed to at least rudimentary do that, and it wasn't very successful. People died, of course, but they say the fact that anybody lived was a miracle in that case. Okay, I'm not lined up yet, but I'm not offline. I should be able to turn onto heading here pretty well. So we have flaps out and we have gear down. I'm going to put one more notch of flaps out there and pull throttle back. And this, with having the flaps there, it does give me that ability to have a bit more range in my throttle, because with the clean aircraft, obviously my range wasn't very high, so I couldn't impart a lot of extra throttle to bring the nose up, which reduced my fine control, really. Whereas this, now I do. So as you'll see here, we're just going to roll to the right a little bit. So forward on the left, which, as you'll know, if you lose an engine, it's going to turn into the dead engine direction. What we're doing is essentially that. We're encouraging the aircraft to turn in that direction by giving it more thrust on one side. So the centre of thrust changes. And now we need to straighten up again, so it's back on that side, but we have to advance both. Now I'm keeping them separated here, as you'll see, so I'll advance them together but offset. And I might change it and then pull them back like that. So it's a matter of... And you can have a bigger difference in the throttles will create a quicker change in that. So as you see here, bigger difference, bigger change. Keep them up so our nose is still pointed up. We need to plan this very carefully and bring her in as slowly and gently as possible. We haven't got a lot of pitch control in a hurry. Okay. This is one of my most nerve-wracking attempts because I've not done this technique in a long time. I figured it'd be fun for a video though. Something different. And I know how to do it, but knowing how to do it and actually putting it into practice are two different things. Knowing how to do it, putting it into practice, and then one-shot recording it on YouTube are an entirely separate thing, because you're watching my first attempt at this. I have not practiced this before this video. I did not go out and fly this approach beforehand. I am doing this as if this had happened to me in the moment, because to me, this is an emergency technique. Obviously it's one that's not very taught or practiced. It's not something that's going to be very useful outside of a twin situation, and it entirely depends what it would be. It's not really any, well, it depends. But in this case, if I had to do this, I'd have to do this relatively blind. So there's no point me practicing, there's no point me knowing how to do it or having done this approach several times. If I can't do it the first time, I'm dead. So I have to do that. Now it helps we have a 150-foot wide runway that's 10,000 feet long here. It gives us plenty of room to screw about. And we're lined up on the centre line here relatively. Just going to keep us straight, and I'm going to start lowering the power and bringing us down. Bit of wind there. Gust kind of caught the aircraft. As you can see here. Oh, nose down, nose down, nose down. Power back. Here we go. I wish I could give you a more zoomed out look at the throttles here, which would be wonderfully helpful. But, oh god, we're diving a little bit quickly here. Yeah. Nose up, please. Nose up, please. I keep trying to look down, but then I end up going down. So it's a bit of a problem. But as you can see, the yoke isn't moving. Once you kind of get used to this technique and you have a twin set up on the throttle, it is relatively easy to manage once you get used to it. It's almost like skid steer, in a way, just with more consequence. Okay. Rolling her a bit more to that side. Straighten her up. Nose down, nose down, nose down. Neutralize it by coming back up early, because as you pull the power out to get the nose down, you want to start feeding it back in straight away to counteract any excessive drop. So I want to keep my throttle straight here. Bring the nose up. We're diving a little much, but not too badly. We are fast, but not horrifically fast. This is the critical juncture, folks. This is where we make the bacon. This is where we work out if we're screwed up or not. Come on, pick up the nose. Pick up the nose. Nose up, nose up, nose up, nose up. The fact we've got this far is already a miracle. Oh, no. Okay, power off. Power on the right. Oh god, we're going to nose over. I'm pretty sure. No. Power back. Power up on the left. Left, 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 left. Power off on the left, power up on the right. Can I use my brakes? Yeah, I can use my brakes. We'll use our brakes. Only the brakes, not the rudder. So I'm just tipping the toe brakes here. Rudders aren't moving. Oh, I think we'll have to use the brakes. Maybe. That was the most decidedly scuffed landing ever. But if you haven't got flight controls, I think any kind of landing works in that case. Any landing is a success, I think, when it comes to not having flight controls. So, we call that a win. Let's kill those engines, and we'll roll to a stop as we take a little bit of a look-see-doodle around Dade-Collier Training Field. As you can see, it's huge, and we did use quite a lot of it. We used about maybe 7,000 feet here, just getting this thing, and it's not even stopped because I've not really braked very hard, but with the porpoising and bouncing and derping we used up quite a bit of this runway. And just like it is in real life, this is basically empty. This was meant to be this monstrous airport out here in the middle of the Everglades. It was meant to be a hub of aviation for huge jets, which people thought were only going to get bigger. But now, it's basically a ramp and a shack, or one FBO, staffed by 1 or 2 people at a time, max. It's not a big place. And it's not close to any resources or local services. Yeah, this is basically what you got. A little compound, an ISO. Yeah. Oh, there's even a parking lot. Well, there you go. I wonder if we stopped yet. I think we stopped. Let's go back to the plane. Did we stop? We stopped. Now we'll put the parking brake on there. Well, not the usual kind of video I would normally do, but at the same time, I thought you would enjoy a distinctly different adventure. Something that is not the usual. Can we do something? And this was categorically my first attempt. I did not have more than one. I did not pre-plan this. I did not practice this anywhere else. I have done this technique before. I've never done it in MSFS. Not in this aircraft. And give it a go. It's fun, and it's a real challenge, and it will test your skill and your reaction, and more importantly, your prediction of what the aircraft's going to do. And you'll find, once you can do it, you have a pretty strong appreciation of how the aircraft's going to react in terms of its thrust. And just how much you can do with that. Differential thrust is a really useful tool, even when you have all your controls, so think about that. Thanks for watching. Bye.